Joining us is Mayor Khalid Kamau of the city of South Fulton, running for re-election, but he would like to go by Mayor Kobe, and that is what we will go by during this interview. Thank you so much for joining us, Mayor Kobe.
Thank you. Thank you for doing this.
We truly appreciate it. So you were up for re-election. I want to start with a switch of your decision. In April of this year, you announced that you would not seek re-election, citing a low salary, financial hardship, having to sell your mother's house, and relying on food stamps at one point, as well as turning down good job offers. What changed for you, and why are you deciding to run for re-election?
Well, I want to be clear. None of those were the reasons that I wasn't running. I do think it's important to put on record, our city is the same size as Atlanta. And where the mayor of Atlanta makes $212,000 a year, I make about $44,000 a year. So it is difficult to live on. I talked about those things in my announcement about not running, to talk about how much I had sacrificed to do the job. And it's for me, it's not a litany of complaints, it's an evidence of my love. Like, I would not work for $44,000 or sell my mother's house or be on food stamps for anywhere other than my hometown. This is my hometown. I love this city. I do not like the amount of backlash that I got from this city council. 5 out of 7 members of the council endorsed the old mayor when I ran. And I think they've spent the last 4 years trying to punish me for winning and making me a one-term mayor. And so I really stepped out of the race because I was just tired of the fighting, you know? And in as much as I had any part in it, you know, I said, let me take myself out of the fighting, and maybe the fighting would stop. It did not. The bad decisions also did not stop. I didn't attend a budget retreat for this year's upcoming budget. Our new fiscal year budget, FY 2026, started in October. I skipped the retreat. I said, there's no need for me to be a cook in this kitchen, because I won't be here when the dish arrives in 2026. But at that retreat, City Council agreed to eliminate the cap on property taxes in order to try and get this $100 million bond for our 911 center and our police headquarters, which they're 2 big projects. They're the biggest 2 projects we've ever done as a city. Under my administration, we purchased over 400 acres of land, including land for a 911 center, a city hall, and we're working on a 150-acre park along the Chattahoochee River. But the residents didn't want to eliminate the millage rate cap. You know, I held focus groups in my office. One of the things I did in renovating the mayor's office is that we turned what was the mayor's conference room into a focus group room. We call it the Collab Lab, but we can do these focus groups where we kick the department heads out, or put them in another room, and they can watch as we talk to residents about what they really want. They did not want this millage rate increase, and I really think it took me saying publicly that I would not sign it, or that I would veto it if the residents didn't approve, which is something that I've done consistently throughout my administration. The bank came back. We've had multiple offers from multiple banks. We do not even have to touch our millage rate, let alone raise the cap or eliminate the cap. And so that was really, I saw how quickly very bad decisions could be made if there wasn't someone in the room making sure that we were making citizen-driven decisions and not just decisions that we thought were good. Some people think that once you've elected, now that I'm elected, I'm going to make all the decisions because you've chosen me to be the decision maker. But I don't really think that that's how government that's citizen-driven really works. I think it's a continuous feedback loop, and we should always be going back to the residents to make sure that we are making the decisions that they really want. And so that's why I decided to run again, yeah.
Thank you for that. I want to ask you about City Council, because you did bring it up. I know that, first of all, we'll talk about your competition. You do have 8 people who want to fill this seat, including, you mentioned, former Mayor Bill Edwards, as well as one of your council members, Carmelita Gums.
Multiple council members.
Multiple council
and people
members
that
as
I
well.
asked to run for council. So yes.
Yes, yes. And I want to ask you about your relationship with council, because we know that since your
Right.
inauguration, you guys have kind of been butting heads, from the speech that you gave on City Hall calling for the removal for some of the city staff there, as well as the council unanimously voting to garnish your check for a mural that you commissioned.
Right.
Can you talk about that relationship? And if you are reelected, how will you work together with City Council?
And I am unapologetically blunt about certain things. We won't work well together. And so what I'm telling the residents, we have staggered terms. One of the things that I'll be pushing for, if reelected, is for us all to be elected at one time, so that you can have, everybody should have the opportunity that citizens in districts 2, 4, and 6 will have this year, and 3 will have next year. So there are 4 council seats in the next 6 months that are up for election. And what I'm telling residents is that you need to pick a mayor and council that are politically aligned, right? It's what we see even at the federal level. We pick a president of one party and a Congress of another party, and then nothing gets done, and the government shuts down, and we wonder why it's like that when we have these opposing parties that don't get along.
And I just want to pause, just to be clear for those
Yeah.
who are watching. You're saying that if you are reelected with the existing council, you all will not get along. So why should the residents pick you as mayor?
I think that I have been a good mayor. I think one of the things I really encourage people to do is to go beyond the news stories, right? Because, the news stories are 60 seconds. Our council meetings are 6 to 8 hours. I encourage people, pick any council meeting, watch one council meeting. Hear what I'm saying, because we're having these debates. Hear what I'm saying, hear what council's saying, vote for whoever makes sense. But you can't, insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. So you can't vote for the same mayor and the same council people and expect a different result. I believe that people should vote for me and vote for a new council. But if residents don't want to do that due diligence and watch and really try and call balls and strikes, then vote us all out. I would rather you have a brand new mayor and council than to have members of this council come back.
That's a bold statement.
I mean, it's a true statement. Again, if people dig into the research, there are members of this council that have been accused multiple times by our staff of being vengeful and vindictive and
Like
creating
who?
a hostile work environment. And so
Who would you say?
I think that there are multiple members of this council that have done that. I've also been pushing for us to have a quality of life survey in which our 800 employees can give us feedback. It's been postponed time and time again. We were supposed to do it this fall. It's been postponed by the will of the council until after the election. And I'm saying we need to be doing that survey now so that we can hear from our staff how the politicking of this year has really made the work environment in City Hall impossible, and it has.
I want to take the focus from council to the people,
Yes.
because you all are elected to serve the people. As mayor, you have pledged to attract new business and support small business. What do you consider your biggest win from your term, this previous term, when it comes to helping the people of South Fulton start businesses and grow their business?
I'm going to give you 2. I wrote the original legislation for community development block grants in the city of South Fulton. And through that program, we have given $500,000 in not loans, in grants between, I think, between $5,000 and $25,000 each to South Fulton businesses. We gave another $500,000 in ARPA funds. So we've given $1 million to small businesses, mostly black businesses, because we are the blackest city in America.
What kind of feedback did you get from residents?
Great feedback. Residents, it's one of the stories that you can see on my timeline or on my Instagram. I don't think that we really promoted it enough, but the feedback has been great from that. And then I would say traveling internationally, there is a local company and there's this testimonial about it on my website. We've really been helping people that are doing business in South America and Africa that are importing products from around the diaspora. We've helped them. We've actually gone down to the port of Savannah and helped them get their items through customs faster, because too often things that are coming from West Africa or South America are, they're marked for like extra screening, and people get their product held up, which holds up their supply chain. And so we've really helped businesses that are doing that sort of international business grow their business. And so those are two things that I'm probably most proud of. And I'll say one more is the film industry. I helped bring or helped the expansion, this $30 million expansion of a Black-owned movie studio on Fulton Industrial Boulevard. We've now, we're in the second year of this amazing Global South Film Festival that came out of our office, which not only tells stories from people around the diaspora, but we're actually also looking at how we make South Fulton a camera-ready city, a more film-friendly city. So those are the things that I'm excited about.
The Hollywood of the South.
Yes, that's
Love
it.
to see it. I want to ask you this because you did bring it up. We know that travel for politicians is not anything that is out of reach. We see Mayor Andre Dickens do it, Governor Brian Kemp. But I do want to ask about the questions that were surrounding your travel.
Yes.
A city-issued audit, it found that over a 25-month period, you charged nearly $70,000 in what auditors characterized as questionable expenses, including streaming subscriptions, car wash services, and took 20 international trips to destinations like Canada, South America,
So let me stop you there.
Africa.
It wasn't 20 international trips. It was about 5 or 6 international trips. They are counting each leg of a trip. So if I went to Rwanda for the African Leadership University, which I did, I fly from Atlanta to Amsterdam, Amsterdam to Rwanda, back to Amsterdam, back to Atlanta. They're counting that as 4 trips. It's one round trip. The other thing that I will say is that these, again, are expenses that all mayors have. The auditing firm found across 76 purchasing cards, because they did not just my card, they did 76 purchasing cards. 30% of the expenses came from council, over $700,000 worth of expenses that were as questionable to the auditors as my expenses. But people that are running for mayor on that council, they are the ones that made the motion that called for this audit. Their supporters went to the news and said, oh, these things are questionable, we need to investigate this mayor. They have consistently refused to do a forensic audit of themselves, even though over 100 citizens have signed petitions calling for them to do the same audit on themselves that they have done on me, and they refuse to do it.
I was going to ask you that. So would you would call on an audit for them as well then?
I wish that we didn't do audits for anyone, but now
But
that
for transparency,
but
to
for
make sure that-
transparency, right? Like now that we've done this, and really, when I was sworn into office, first of all, I didn't call to fire anyone. I asked for people's letters of resignation. This is a common practice when administrations turn over. It happens in Atlanta. It happens in the White House. You ask for everybody's letter of resignation. You hire many of the people back. But I think as the only at-large elected official, as the mayor, each mayor, including the mayor that comes after me, has the right to make an administration that reflects the policy goals and priorities that they ran on, which is why in our city, we have a city manager form of government. I only get to appoint the city attorney, the city clerk, and the city manager. I didn't get to appoint any of those people for years. I have finally gotten to appoint a city attorney and a city clerk. I've made sure that our attorney is interim and our city manager's contract ends in March, so that the next mayor will have the ability and the authority to do what I was not given the ability and the authority to do.
Thank you so much for that. I do want to just get back to my original question involving the travel expenses and just the
Yes.
expenses of
Yes.
being a mayor. If you are reelected, will you commit to publishing, potentially on a quarterly basis, some type of ledger or dashboard of these expenses and travel logs to ensure that transparency of with the residents of the city of South Fulton so that they know where their tax dollars are going?
Absolutely. And that's one of the process improvements that we made even prior to this audit. So we had a retreat. We knew that these inconsistencies were happening. We all agreed that we were just going to move forward without doing this mudslinging. But then I announced that I was running for mayor, and we decided that all the rules of the retreat were off. I definitely would make sure that all of the expenditures that I'm having in my office, that they're all transparent. In fact, if you go to kobecares.com right now, there is a trade page, kobecares.com/trade. You can see all the expenses from all of those trips. You can also see videos and presentations that I made at international conferences. We went to we went to the Toronto International Film Festival to promote South Fulton as this camera-ready destination. Mm-hmm. We were invited to the United Nations and to represent the entire metro area mm-hmm. at the Olympics. There was an African village, so there was a gathering of all of the diaspora at the Olympics. It was like a party within a party, and we were invited to represent the United States at that party. So,
can I ask you this?
Yeah.
If you are reelected, is there a plan in place? Number one, would you pull back on the spending? It seemed like City Council had an issue with how much money you were spending. Would you pull back on that, or do you go back to your original claim that this was all personally motivated?
I mean, it's all politically motivated. I don't know how council members could vote to do an audit of my travel when they traveled to Africa, right? The District 5 councilwoman traveled to South America and Africa. She went to with some of the same people that I actually put her on to the people in Colombia. The District 6 councilwoman who's up for election now, she went to Nigeria after this whole, we're worried about these international trips. She took a 10-day trip to Nigeria. She took a trip to India.
So looking at the city budget collectively, should everybody be pulling back on travel, or should something be worked in to make sure, because clearly that's a passion of yours, right, to make sure that the diaspora and other countries, you're creating this pipeline to grow South Fulton. Right. But if you are reelected, is it an issue of budget? Should these travel be pulled back? Should they be planned on a calendar so that everybody as a council and the mayor is going and we're not doing separate trips? What are your thoughts on that?
I think the best way to save money is to just have the mayor go, right? If the mayor is the spokesperson of the city, I don't know why other people are traveling internationally. If the question is how much we're spending on international travel, then maybe we just have one ambassador for the city, who's the mayor. I will say that on the trips that I made, a lot was made about this trip that I made to Ghana. There's not a single hotel receipt because the entire time I stayed in supportive housing with the folks who invited me. So I didn't pay for a hotel. I'm willing to do things like that for future trips. I'm willing to try and, find sponsors and corporate partners for those trips. That was actually something that we were working on, which is why dragging my name and dragging the name of the city of South Fulton, it's really unfortunate. We actually had some airline partners that we were working on, that we were developing partnerships with, who backed away because of this political infighting.
Thank you so much for your answer. Because of time, I have so many other questions, but we do have to wrap up our interview. I love any of these political interviews that we do leading up to the election. The last bit, I want it to be for you, for your message to the people of South Fulton. So my question, very open-ended, what is your message to those as they are heading into Election Day on Tuesday?
I would say, I'm going to look into the camera here. I'm going to say you all have a unique opportunity to elect a mayor and council that are politically aligned. There is this idea that we can just throw everyone out. We really need to look at our charter. That is the recipe for our city. It doesn't matter what ingredients you bring into a kitchen if the recipe is bad. And then lastly, I would tell people tonight, At 9 p.m., I'm going to be launching this podcast called Brother's Gonna Work It Out. We're going to have some in-depth, courageous conversations about the future of South Fulton and really just the future of Black people in America. This is a really critical time. We need unapologetically Black leadership. We need people who are going to be for us, because we are seeing at the federal level there are people who definitely are not for us, and they are making plans for us, and we've got to be ready to counter that.
Mayor Kobe, thank you so much for taking the time to come to 11 Alive. We truly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. South Fulton forever.
Thank you.